Mr. President, as you know, we've spent over $100 billion to help Ukraine defeat Vladimir Putin, whose thirst for blood, we now know, is legendary. He has the same, he meaning Vladimir Putin, has the same thirst for blood that Stalin did. We've spent over $100 billion helping Ukraine. Some people think we've spent too much. Some people think we need to spend more. Some people think we shouldn't have spent their money there at all. Some people think we ought to spend less. This is America. You know, opinions are kind of like belly buttons. Everyone has one. Some are innies, some are outies. But everybody has one, and you're entitled to share it in America. The Senate is going to be debating Ukraine soon, as you know, Mr. President. But regardless of how you feel about beating back Putin, and whether you think that's in America's national security interest, and whether you agree with me that Putin is a pirate, he's a gangster, wherever you stand on that, there's one thing we all ought to be able to agree on. This $100 billion plus, it's actually around $113 billion, and that's not just money for arms. That's also money for humanitarian aid and money to keep the government of Ukraine running. And that money, that $113 plus billion, didn't just fall from heaven. We thank heaven for it. But it came out of people's pockets. And those people are called the American taxpayer. And one thing, regardless of what you think about Ukraine, I think we can all agree on is that we have to watch that money like a hawk. We cannot allow it to be stolen. We cannot allow it to be wasted. Now, Mr. President, I know you've had this experience in life because I know you're a wise man. Nothing makes it easier to resist temptation. Nothing in this world makes it easier to resist temptation than a proper upbringing, a strong set of values, and witnesses. And we need more witnesses. And I'm talking about an inspector general. Senator Sinema and I have a bill. It's called the Independent and Objective Oversight of Ukrainian Assistance Act. All this bill does, it says, Mr. President, not our Mr. President here in the Senate, President Biden, appoint a inspector general to watch this money like a hawk. And that inspector general would have to be confirmed by the United States Senate. President picks, we confirm. And that inspector general would give periodic reports to the president, to the Congress, and to the American people on a weekly basis, if they would like, about its audits of this money and who's been stealing, if anyone, and who's been caught. Now, let me make two quick points. President Zelensky is also fighting corruption, and there has been some corruption in Ukraine. You would expect there to be, frankly, when you're spending $100+ billion. And President Zelensky, I'm proud of him. He has fired the people that he has been caught, and they're prosecuting others. So he's watching it. And I also want to be fair. Right now, the Inspector General from the Department of Defense and an agency called USAID and the Department of State, they say they're auditing the money. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they're not. But have any of you heard from them? I haven't. I know they had one meeting where they came up here at their convenience to talk to us, and a bunch of us couldn't go. We were in hearings or something. But they haven't been given periodic reports to the American people. And I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that we don't need a cluster of agencies involved here, turning into a cluster of another description. We need, just like we did in Afghanistan, we need one inspector general, one woman or man that we can hold responsible, appointed by the president, confirmed by the United States Senate. The Inspector General at the Department of Defense and the Inspector General of the State Department, the Inspector General at USAID can work under the People's Inspector General, under Senator Sinema and I's bill. But we need one person to hold accountable, just like we did in Ukraine, in Afghanistan. And the American people, regardless of how they feel about funding in Ukraine, and the members of the United States Senate, regardless of how they feel about the war in Ukraine, surely we can agree that we will all rest easily, or at least easier, if we follow the money. Now, I've tried to pass this bill once, Mr. President. And I want to be fair. Some of my Democratic colleagues opposed it. But some of my Republican colleagues opposed it too. And some of them were quiet about how they opposed it. But I know who they are. I love them, but I know what they were up to. They were taking orders from the Department of Defense, because the Department of Defense, bless their hearts, they don't want any of us intruding on their turf. They say, we've got this. Well, let me tell you something. There's one agency in the federal government that has never been audited. One agency in the federal government that has never been audited. Guess which one? The Department of Defense. The Department of Defense. Now, I'm not saying that's the fault of the Inspector General there now, but he needs to start with his own department and let Senator Sinema and I pass this bill. We're trying to help him, not hurt him. We're trying to give him some help. So that's what our bill will do. I'm not giving up. I'll be back, as I said the other day, just like the Terminator, on another issue. This is something that all senators can agree on, regardless of our position on Ukraine, that this money shouldn't be wasted. And I'm going to say it again. Nothing makes it easier to resist temptation than a proper upbringing, a strong set of values and witnesses. And Senator Sinema's bill and my bill will provide those witnesses, those auditors, those inspectors general that we need. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I yield the floor.